was WCW with Mortis and Wrath and Glacier. And when that happened, you weren't Father James Mitchell, you weren't Sinister Minister, but yet there's a whole different ballgame there because NWO was running wild, like reality-based storylines, but yet
Right.
here's Glacier and Wrath. How'd you feel about that situation? Because did it feel like you were in a different time zone, like a different world?
Yes, we were. But here's the thing. If you weren't part of the NWO versus WCW main event uh food chain, you really weren't being developed much as a character or getting a lot of promo time. Most of the promo time went to that, to the NWO storyline. And when you were in the ring, instead of them calling your matches and putting whatever you were doing over, and it could have been Rey Mysterio against Dean Malenko, they weren't talking about them. They were talking about Hollywood Hogan. And if you go back and listen to watch those old tapes, they're not talking about the match. They're talking about the whatever they're selling for the pay-per-view or whatever the NWO did this week. But we were in a great spot because we were so different. We stood out. We had that ridiculous over the top production that made us stick out. Didn't get time to develop the character particularly, which is why I had to use sort of a Marcel Marceau mime way to get across that I was an evil son of a bitch, because they weren't going to give us time to talk. So that's when I started all the Jack Nicholson and The Shining kind of type of get it over with your face on your way to the ring, because I knew at least I had that many seconds that the camera would be on me, so I could make the face or bark something out, regarding what our intentions were, that wouldn't be put over by the commentators because they're too busy talking about the NWO. But man, it was a hell of a time to be alive. The wrestling business was the hottest it had ever been. I jumped from the Bush Leagues to the number one cable television show in the United States. Yeah, it's. I was telling somebody earlier, and I think you just mentioned something like this. It's part of how you got to where you are now. So there's a little bit of James Vandenberg still in what I do now. It's just like looking back at yourself with the Coke bottle glasses and braces in your old elementary school annual or something,
Yes.
But sometimes I look at it and I'm embarrassed, and then other times, if I don't watch it for a long time, I can go back and, as I call it, smell the popcorn. Like, you can listen to a song sometimes and it'll take you back to where you were.
Of course.
I can look at those huge crowds and, and instead of looking at it and going, oh God, that was so stupid, I can think this was really a game changer for me. Because had I not gone to WCW, my life would have been on a completely different course. Probably wouldn't have been in wrestling after that. It was just such a crazy time to be alive. And so I can watch that stuff in the right mindset, and I can all the sights and the sounds and everything that was going on in that crazy environment it just comes flooding back. It's like going to a high school reunion or something. So I wouldn't ever put it as a career highlight. If I was going to show you here's James Mitchell's greatest hits, probably none of that would be on it. Uh-huh. but I don't discount it, because I was part of something that was important. I mean, part of an important time in the wrestling business, and featured pretty prominently for a middle of the card act.
Well, I think, you brought it up, the right mindset for you to watch that stuff. But for, say, someone like me who watched it when I was growing up, it's a core memory. Like, those aren't bad memories for me. Those are, like, talking to you right now is a privilege and an honor because of the memories you put into my brain. And so, whatever you think about when you watch those, I always think about happy times. You're the popcorn that I'm smelling. Go, I remember that. That was so good. That was so much fun. So I got to say, you had NWA running wild, but you were giving me something different.
What's funny about that too is, okay, depends on the age of the person I bump into. If I bump into somebody my age,
Mm.
they'll kind of snicker about Blood Runs Cold. But I run into people now that are like in their 20s, or they're maybe turning 35. They were watching Glacier and Mortis and Wrath and Ernest Miller and myself when they were like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. This was 25 years ago, right? About
Yeah.
1997, 25 years ago. And they weren't interested in the NWO. You know, they they were interested in Blood Runs Cold for the reason Eric Bischoff came up with that whole idea, was to sell it to kids and video game, players. The video game was on, industry was on the cusp of taking off into the stratosphere like it is now. So it's really cool when I run into somebody that would have been a child when I was doing that, and they talk about how much I scared them and whatnot. And I'm thinking, I scared you with that cornball shit I was doing, but hey, thank you. It means a lot.
Well, it was nice to see all those
And
great characters. And like, everyone always brings up Hulk Hogan in WCW. Do you have a Hulk Hogan story in WCW? Did you interact with him? Did he ever talk to you?
yeah, a little bit. In fact, Dallas Page was sort of our babysitter for the Blood Runs Cold clique. I don't know if he was officially assigned that by Eric Bischoff, but he was, he'd kind of, hey kid, do this, do that, don't, watch it. So he had told me basically when I got there, what you want to do is make money and ride this contract out as long as you can. So keep your mouth shut. Don't go talk to, the top guys and whatnot unless they come to you. So one night, I don't remember where we were, and I totally kept myself away from those guys. I was going to walk up and say, hey, how are you doing, or anything. Hulk Hogan, I don't even know why he did it. He just said, hey guys, you guys got a good act, or something like that. And I forget how the conversation, but from that, I asked him some question, and he went into the story about how he came out to the Rocky Eye of the Tiger theme the first time, and he was going into all this detail about Vince McMahon Sr., how he would be holding silver dollars in his hands and doing, shuffling them back and forth. And anyhow, he went into this long discussion, just telling me this anecdote, and he was pretty animated. And Dallas Page, I could see him over there at the corner of my eye. And when I got done, like, hey, well, thanks, Hulk. That was cool. And Page walked over and he said something to the effect of, Vandenballs, you stupid son of a bitch. What are you doing? I told you not to be talking to top guys like that. You're going to bury yourself. And what were you asking him? I said, I didn't ask him anything. He said this. I said he was telling me about Vince McMahon's dad and the coins and paying the sound guy $100 or $1,000, whatever it was, $500 to go ahead and play the music. And Paige was like, he told you that? Really? I was like, yeah, So that was my main Hulk Hogan story. I've bumped into him over the years, but that was my most face-to-face interaction with him.